Hello, everybody. Welcome. Participant list is filling up. Come on in. Grab a seat right there in the front row. Today we're interviewing none other than Brad Inman. Brad is wrapping up another meeting, and so we're just waiting for him to jump on right now. And so I am your entertainment until that happens. Taking a look at the list. See a lot of names I recognize. Welcome, everybody. So I have been texting and emailing and messaging in Brad, letting him know. But he has another meeting that he's wrapping up. So he should be right here. He's, as you'd imagine, a little bit busy, running a big news organizations and trying to show up to meetings like this to talk and do an interview. Welcome everybody who's here. Good number of attendees, a good turnout so far. If you didn't know, this is part, oh, I see he's on. So OCR, I do see Brad's name in the participants list. So if you would grab him and put him on screen with me, I'd appreciate it. So everybody, this is part one of the new Real interview series we are going to be doing. And we're kicking it off with none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Brad Inman. Hello, Brad.
Greetings. How are you all? Great to be here.
Thanks for being here. No, it's all right.
You had to put in an encrypted password as if that someone might get in here and they might, what they do? Steal the association's desks or what? I'm always amazed at all this. This is about transparency, opening it up. We don't need passwords. We don't just, we're all here together. Brad Inman ranting before you even introduced me. I'm sorry. I love you. And I'm so grateful to the association for having me. I'm really, really grateful.
Well, thank you for being here. That threw me too. I was like, password? I've never had a password before. I had to go back and find it to enter. It's like, what the hell is going on? And I thought to myself, oh man, I don't think we told Brad there's going to be a password. So, well, welcome.
Well,
for those who don't know, this is Brad Inman, and he's coming to us. Man, it's so fantastic, this technology that we have, being able to get him into our association. This is probably realistically wouldn't have been able to happen in real life. It's just the logistics of travel and everything else. And so, Brad, we really appreciate you being here. I had a couple questions that I was going to ask you, and then I wanted to open it up to these guys and gals for a Q&A, if that was okay.
I love to hear from the rank and file.
Perfect. All right, so let's get into it. First things first, I read a little bit, I know a little bit about, but please tell us a little bit more. You got quarantined alone like a monk for like 6 weeks when this whole thing kicked off?
I didn't really see a human being except through the window, and it was because my wife Yaz had to take her, get her mother to Morocco. And in that process, when she landed back in the US, we decided that to be safe, she shouldn't fly anymore and quarantine herself, which she did in Florida. And then after about 6 weeks, she met me here. But I really wasn't alone, Dan. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter who's been trying to tell me the last year that unicorns really exist. And so one day I looked out the window, I closed my eyes, I was inspired by Quinny, my granddaughter, and I looked out and there was a whole herd of unicorns in my front yard. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, I talked to them every morning, Dan. And the last day, the day I went to LAX to pick up Yaz, they told me that they were leaving. And by the way, there's a few things about unicorns, Dan, you may not know. One is they talk if you believe in them. And if you don't believe in them, you can't see them. 2, they're immune from viruses. And 3, you can't take a picture, or I'd flip on a screen share and show a picture. But the last one they left, they said, we're leaving. And I said, you can't leave. You got to meet my wife. And they go, no, we're leaving because we're going on to the next house where someone is alone. And I thought, wow, that's great. But I don't know about all of you. It's a good time to reflect. I, being alone, had this great opportunity to remember stories from childhood that were, I'd forgotten. And think about a lot of things. I mean, this is a really cleansing process, as tragic as the events around us are. It made me realize now more than ever, we have to believe in some things that we can't even imagine. And the first one is to go into the bathroom and look in the mirror and believe in that person on the other end. This really requires digging deep, reaching high, we have to believe in ourselves as we face, and already have, and probably more to come, some incredible challenges. So we got to believe in ourselves now more than ever. And if along with that, you can believe in unicorns or whatever else, I would encourage you to do so, because you may need those unicorns. They were quite helpful to me.
Yeah, I bet. You never know when, right? And I also heard that you had again, because you were isolated, but you had a fairy grocery mother or father or
Yeah,
brother.
and for some of the, I mean, you're all from Southern California, where we birthed self-help books and all kinds of other crazy stuff. So I'm sure most people in Southern California believe the stories about the unicorns. But for the cynics out there that don't, this is a little more believable. And what happened is, what started showing up on my front stoop about every 5 days was a brown paper bag with something in there that the person that left it knew I really wanted. Leg of lamb, whole chicken to cook, and then some warm barbecue ribs over the course of several weeks. And no note, no follow-up text, no email. And it was pretty profound. I thought, wow, because I knew they knew me, and I trusted it, and I cooked the leg of lamb and the chicken and ate the ribs. But it didn't come from Realtor.com. It didn't come from Zillow.com. It didn't come from the world headquarters of KW or Realogy or Remax. It didn't come from DoorDash. It didn't come from delivery. It came from my local realtor, Byron. And you know, what's going on here is, this is just another example of exercising what I call our human muscles, many that we haven't exercised before. And in real estate, I think it's pretty clear. Those that have stepped up are present, showing up, because we all will get a report card, Dan, that those that are in service to their customers and their community, you know, are going to come through this very, very well. And, you know, I've already made referrals and I had previously to my realtor, and I referred him because he's a professional. I don't, you know, I'm never looking to be best friends with my realtor. What I really look for is a realtor who could be there for me when I need them and deliver the goods. And, you know, it's often gnarly, complicated transactions. So it was just a great example of a realtor exercising that human muscle of service. And also high emotional IQ, you know, is so important now. Empathy never's been more important. Just like I have three I talk about: the technology IQ, which we can chat about later. And the third one is market IQ. Now more than ever, you need to have your zip code tattooed to your forehead or your butt. You need to know that market really well, because guess what? A lot of confused consumers out there. Are prices going down? Or they're, you know, should I buy? You know, I mean, there's just a lot of, now more than ever, people need a realtor.
So two things. First, everybody, if you have questions, start typing them now, so we don't have this odd, awkward waiting for you to type questions when I wrap up here. So start throwing your questions in for Brad now. Brad, I was going to actually ask you this question third, but I'm going to do it second now. You kind of, for whatever reason, and we've known each other for a couple years now, you got this bad rap that you're trying to get rid of real estate agents and replace real estate agents. And you kind of get this bad rap. But I know better. And so I want you to talk about, what do you think from a customer service standpoint, from an agent to consumer standpoint, what's it going to take for agents to be successful in that realm as we come out of this crisis? Not as a replacement, but not as a competition, but as a collaboration. What do you see going on there?
Yeah, I don't want to get defensive, but I have said some outrageous things that make people nervous. Like, we should make buying and selling a home as easy as buying a latte. And I've also talked a lot about disruption. But what people don't understand is that I always felt, and still to this day, that I want to disrupt the real estate process. I want to disrupt the process that is protracted, painful, full of anxiety, full of paper, full of too many people. And I can go through the list in the value chain that don't add a lot of value, because we have technology alternatives. And anything that I ever hoped for and envisioned for the consumer always involved a realtor. The beauty of what's going on now, Dan, and is that all of this, with our backs to the wall, it took a pandemic to force that. I mean, we've had a lot of transactions in this country, and they've been done without people interacting with each other in the normal, traditional way. Now, does that mean the realtor is out of the equation? No. The realtor that's out of the equation, though, is not exercising those human muscles like empathy and service. They're not raising their market IQ so that they can be the best source for their customers about what's going on in a changing market. And three, most importantly, they're not adopting the tech tools that make it possible to do a transaction when you're isolated at home. And by the way, people say, well, it survived. Will virtual walkthrough survive? Will we, all the various things that we've talked about. Yes, they will survive. And the agents that are delivering those services, it's already becoming crystal clear. That's what the consumer wants. It's not, and now realtors are getting it and they're adopting it. And, there's a great period of innovation. And I also think realtors are really being smart and savvy, Dan, about getting rid of the technology that doesn't work because, our budgets are squeezed. We can't afford everything. And the loud and obnoxious technology that was sold to us, a bill of goods, and we were too busy, we're getting rid of. I tell the story of turning on my Roomba, which I'd never done, the vacuum cleaner. And I always like to use a broom to sweep my house. And I like to wash the dishes. And I turned that damn thing on. It was running all day and loud and talking back to me. I threw it in a swimming pool, Dan. And it's just a symbol of what I think everyone should be doing. You should adopt the technology that makes sense for your customers and get rid of that crap that you probably bought and shouldn't have and get it off your credit card.
So speaking of tech, and so much has, to be honest, hasn't been a lot of new tech. I know everyone thinks Zoom is new, but it's been around for years. But speaking of tech, now that we are in this and we're going to be coming out of this, do you have any technical advice or any tech, just like, here's my thought process and what's going to happen with it as we move forward?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. And Pete Flint, who founded Trulia, and where I met Pete Flint, interesting, he's a UK guy, super smart. He was a student at Stanford, Dan, and back in the day. And he called me and said, hey, I can't afford to come to Connect. Can I volunteer as a student? And I said, sure. And so he checked badges at the front of the meeting hall. And he went on to create Trulia and sold it for $3.5 billion to Zillow. And he and I talked the other day, and he said, the first half of the real estate experience online was the front end, digital marketing, listings on the internet, and most importantly, giving lots and lots of information to the consumer. Phase two is all about the transaction, the gnarly, boring back end that's been neglected by everyone in the industry. We just kind of put consumers through this horrible experience without any consideration that there might be alternatives. And so his feeling, and it's proving true, same thing Rich Barton recently said to me at Zillow, is, the amount of innovation on the back end in the last 2 months has been amazing. Now, the one front end is a virtual walkthrough. You could call that front end, but that's kind of moves more in the middle. You see a house, then you get to walk through it. It's kind of phase two, and then you're beginning to transact. And what are those things? They're smart contracts. There are virtual walkthroughs. They're, not remote notary. There are no people involved except maybe by Zoom in certain places. But, starting to get rid of wet signatures and eliminating all paper and all paperwork. And, the Freddy Krueger of real estate, I call it the mortgage, is probably the one area we all need to attack. And I talked to all kinds of interesting, Anthony Shea, head of Loan Depot, and the folks at Quicken, and they said there's been more steps taken in the last 2 months to eliminate some of that friction, that really awful experience, the Freddy Krueger of real estate. And the pain point for the mortgage is delivered two ways, to the consumer and to the agent.
Yeah.
No one knows more about the pain of the mortgage process than the agent. They're constantly apologizing. But also, I think it's time for realtors to recognize they have some leverage here, Dan. If your title company or your mortgage company isn't using those tools, like let's take an example, notary without a person. You know who has a lot of control over that? Certainly the mortgage company, but the title company. And these title companies are showing up at real estate offices. I don't know if they still show up with donuts, but whatever they show up with now. And then that becomes a relationship. You have so much leverage as realtors. Turn to that title company. If you're not using a digital notary, I'm not going to use you as my title company. And that may seem fierce, but you are still the commander in so many ways. You may not be, as I say, the captain of the ship, but you're the one helping the consumer and the vendors get on and off the ship. So you have a lot of power. And I, as a consumer, have done this many times. I had an apartment in New York City I was going to buy, and the realtor wouldn't use DocuSign or wouldn't use any e-signature. And I said, really? And she goes, I said, listen, I'm going to walk away from the deal. And she said, whoa, wait a second. You're going to walk away from the deal over that? And she goes, I thought you liked the house. I said, no, I want to make it really clear. I said, it's not me walking away. You're walking away. If you can't spend 3 hours learning DocuSign and pay $29, which is what back in the day, then you're walking away from a big fat commission. Go ahead, walk away. She called me back in 5 minutes. She said, I got the software. My IT guys helped me load it. I promise you I'll get it done. I had a case in Southern California, and the escrow company required a wet signature. And they said, our lawyers require it. And, you know, that is a classic excuse. I said, really? Well, tell the realtor, Byron, that Brad Inman's walking away from the deal because your lawyer is old-fashioned and stubborn and hanging on to a 200-year-old tradition. And guess what happened? That escrow company called me right back and said, you don't have to do a wet signature on that piece of paper.
We got it figured out.
My point is, you have leverage, realtors. You need to adopt it. You need to force all these vendors to adopt it. I'm going with the lender that is most digitally simple, because people, how long this last day, we're not going to all be out on the street again. It's going to be a while, and there's going to be phases of it. The digital transaction's here to stay. Use your power and leverage to get your vendors and partners to do the right thing. And don't say it like Brad Inman says it. Do it in a nice way.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, I can't even imagine a world without DocuSign anymore. And it's only been like, what, 3-4 years since Keith really launched this thing? And I can't even imagine having to do everything we had to do. We got a couple. Everybody else, please throw them in the Q&A bar, please, if you have some questions for Brad. Brad, one other thing I want to know, you were talking about, you mentioned the upcoming event. Yeah. And you're doing something a little bit differently than you've ever done before. So I wanted you to quickly share that with everybody, because I think it's super cool. So you all have been, and Dan, you've been a real supporter of our community. And I think the people, hopefully in this association, Dan's gone out and done some things nationally and created on the Inman platform, and created a national stage for him in the industry and done a really good job. But people have been coming to us for 25 years to connect, and now we're coming to you. People always say when and where. I say June 2nd and June 4th, and where? In your living room. So move the chairs around, make some coffee. I like half and half, but I'm going to bring Glenn Kelman, the founder and CEO of Redfin. I'm going to bring Rich Barton, the founder and CEO of Zillow. I'm going to bring Gary Keller, the founder and CEO of Keller Williams. I'm going to bring Ryan Schneider. I'm going to bring some of the most unbelievable on the street, tales from the trenches real estate people who are really performing well during this time. We're going to bring indie brokers from all over the world and the country. There's going to be probably as many as 10,000 people. So it's a bigger event. It's more global. And tons of networking, because the key to Connect, Dan, as you know, is making connections for referrals. So bottom line here. But one of the other things that we're doing here is, Dan, you know this, to fly to New York, $500 flight, $700-800 hotel, $800 to Brad Inman, you're up to $2,000, and you eat out in New York City and you got to pay Uber and everything else. $50. It's $49 to come to Connect. And I'm really excited about that piece of it. These are tough times. It's going to be the beginning of some dog days probably. And I don't think we're going to crash and burn, but we all know we're going to be challenged. We have to face that fact and that music. And Inman's going to be there to make it as affordable as possible and easy, no travel, no hotel. And, people come for the content, they come for the networking. We've got unbelievably good content and doing some fun, entertaining things. And, everyone like you will be there with the whole Inman community, and they'll be connecting and meeting. And, there's certain people that are kind of shifted their resources to Inman over the years, and they keep track of their ROI on their investment, and the deals that come through the referral chain is pretty amazing for people that are diligent and networked. So, that's what it's about. That's what Inman's about. We're here to serve only one person, and that's the everyday working realtor. And I'm kind of in the know, and I've been going to, I think I've been to 7 or 8 connects now between San Francisco, Las Vegas, and New York. And I still meet new people and get great new ideas at everyone I go to. And you're right. For me and my wife, who we would go out together, it was usually a $6,000 trip for us to go to an actual connect, and worth every penny, by the way. Yeah. But for us to be able to go for $49 each, and we're each actually getting our own ticket, because we kind of separate and do our own thing, just like we do at actual connects. It's just like, wow, that's ridiculous. So I'm putting right now in the to get the $49 ticket, guys and gals, all you have to do is get a free subscription to Inman. You get it's my favorite price, free $99. You get your free subscription to Inman. The link is a little bit convoluted to get there. So I've put there in the chat bar a link to my site that has a link to the ticket. It'll say Inman for $49, connect. So just go there, click on the Inman link. You get a free subscription for 90 days, and you have the option to get a $49 ticket instead of a $149 ticket because you're an Inman subscriber. And for me, Brad, and I, not to suck up or anything, but I always say Inman News is like the Wall Street Journal for stockbrokers.
Oh, you're sweet.
That's what I read every morning when I start my day, so I kind of know what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Well, we try our best. We just try to deliver it straight up. We don't have conflicts of interest. No one owns stock in Inman, and we can't, as journalists in an organization, own stock in it. We're independent with one goal, one mission, and that's to serve 1 million real estate professionals every single day. Hey, I love this. I'm going to use this. David, it looks like a nice Greek name, Stephanidas. David, I love road rash from a painful transaction. I'm going to steal that term. I love it. Road rash, a painful transaction. That's fantastic. Thank you, David.
And then let's see, David, we'll talk about, I see your next comment. So we'll talk about that as soon as we wrap up. All right, let's get to the good stuff, Brad. Yeah. Danny Murphy. I know Danny, he's actually down in Huntington Beach. Residential real estate stands to do well going forward versus commercial, I think. What market areas are you seeing strong results in? As example, deals getting done, prices remaining stable. Do you think those markets are going to do well?
Yeah, I think, first of all, people always need housing. So we're in a deep freeze, but even during the deep freeze, there have been transactions. As we free up, there'll be more transactions. And there'll be a lot of different motivations, as we all know, for buyers, sellers, renters, and others. And, this is where I not say pivot, stick to your niche, but there are opportunities going to emerge in the rental market that never, resulted before, because people are going to go rent for a while and test things. They're going to want to rent their own houses to test things. There's going to be, people are going to pull some geographics here, and they're going to make a leap to another geography. I know every time Yaz and I ever moved around and bought houses, we always rented for 90 days. Now more than everything, you can see trends there. I heard a really interesting insight yesterday from Paul Boomsma from Leading RE about luxury, that guess what? Those monster houses that were kind of the dogs of real estate before, suddenly, if they got a pool, if they have a tennis court, if they have privacy, that maybe that segment of the luxury market will come back. I don't know for sure. A lot of this is speculation, Dan. I'm not a forecaster, and I've written about all the forecasters, and they're wrong most of the time anyway. And I think realtors on the street know better than anybody based on the calls they're getting. And I have done this series, Tales from the Trenches, and one thing that's common among the successful real estate people is listen to your clients, because what they're saying will probably tell you what's going to happen in your market. So I think, I have a little house in West Hollywood, and we had a rental sign up for a while. We were thinking at the beginning of the year of renting it, maybe got one call a week. And then we started getting 10 a day. And what is that about? It's a little single family house with a little yard, 1927, in good shape. It's plug and play. It's furnished. And so the whole market changed on that house because of coronavirus. So I guess my point here, there is transactions. We don't yet know the impact. And in fact, Amir Mova said it right here, of unemployment. And you're right to capitalize that word, even though it's in a chat. Because the reality is, when people are unemployed, they may move in with their parents, they may have to get roommates and rent. There still may be transactions in there, but it's very hard. And so the full weight of unemployment, I don't think we yet quite, internalized or factored into the market. I just did a podcast today with Kevin Woody, who did an amazing story for Inman about takeaways from all of this, Dan, and he got fired, and so I asked him, he felt free to talk about it, and he did. And it, we just can't underestimate the effect here of that.
Yeah. Everybody who's asking questions about the website, stay tuned. I will give it to you again when we're done here. So you all have it really clearly on where to go for that ticket. All right. Shirley Brad says, is it time? This is an interesting one. Is it time to get rid of the personal website?
Well, if it's part of your branding, if you think about it, there's a term called hyper-local. I never really understood the term. I mean, I do, but it was like, oh God, such a word. But I think now we all understand hyper-local. It's so hyper-local that we're trapped in our own houses, right? And that put a premium on the value that we associate to our homes, or maybe the need to move. But if you think about it, then we just spread out a little. My dad used to say, the number of friends besides family and maybe the in-laws. He said you could probably get rid of a couple of those, but just one hand, the people that, you know, you can trust to cover your back. And my brothers and I used to tell my dad he was nuts. We had so many friends, we thought. But during this, I've thought about that. It may not be 5, it may be 9, it may be 15, and there's certainly professional associations. But our world is so hyper-local now that we're just spreading our wings a little. Now think about it. Spread to the point that my realtor could leave a bag on my front stoop because he just lives a half a mile away. And so I think the importance of the realtor has never been more important, and particularly those realtors that have been in service with their clients in some way, shape, or not, or just show up, or just be in conversations. You don't have to have a heroic, courageous act. Just be present. So if that's important, I think it is probably important to have a personal website. And the most important thing I think you can put in there, certainly listings, but is market information, and let your farm and your community know that you have particularly useful market information that they may not be able to get elsewhere. And this isn't a press release of the National Association of Realtors. This is you go into your MLS. I interviewed a woman named Emily Chervat, who is the head, smart, young, savvy woman, head of the Austin Board of Realtors and MLS there. And I pushed her on what should the MLSs be doing? Well, they're sitting on all this transaction data, and it's hard to get our hands on it, but you should push your MLS. Keep in mind that MLS, you are the customer. And, you know, get them to start spitting out better and more useful micro local information for you that you can take to the bank. I mean, take to the bank by providing that information to your customers. And a great distribution channel is your website. And if you have really valuable market information, your small farm, maybe not tens of thousands of millions of people all over the world, but your small farm will seem a lot smarter because of it, and will be a lot smarter. So that's one idea.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, everybody. We have time for one last question for Brad. Waiting. First person who writes it gets to ask it. In the meantime, the link that exists is like really convoluted and crazy. So what we've done is I just put it on my link tree. All right. And so I'm going to type it in the chat. It's in the chat right now, actually, if you look. And that's www.
Dan, let's do that. The first person to ask a question, we'll give them a free pass to connect now. Okay.
Boom. There you go, everybody. Oh, and Cassie. Okay. Here's what we're going to do, everybody. I'm going to send it to the OCR, but you should be asking a question to Brad right now. It's on the line. Who can type fastest? Type.
$50 pass. Here it is.
Cassie, I will send you the information and everybody who's here.
Let's see if they're listening. Oh, they're tired. Okay.
Oh, look at everybody.
You won. My eyes are blue normally, but Yaz and I had a pool party with a whole bunch of people, her, me, and all these imaginary characters, and we had a few margaritas. So today they're kind of, I don't know, can't see the blue very well. Thanks for the question, Cassie. We're going to send you, Dan, I'll get done for you through the Inman team, a free pass to connect now. And I hope to see you. Yeah, red, white, and blue, David. That's what they are. What a great gang of people. I really appreciate you having me, Dan.
Hey, Brad, thank you for being here. Everybody, the information with the links, the board will be sending it out to you here later today. So that will have the link for you to get your free subscription to Inman News and to get your $49 ticket to attend Connect. I will be there all 3 days. Brad, I was supposed to be in Prague on June the 2nd. Speaking. So instead, and while I am quite bummed, at least I will be at Connect with all my friends virtually and being able to watch some great content. So I will be there with bells on. Thank you very much for being here today and answering questions for everybody.
And thank you, Dan, for all you do, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.